What's good? What's good? What's good? What's good? Let me go ahead. Let me go ahead and turn it off. Because I actually really do want to go ahead and jump into this. Um, to God be the glory. You see what the title is now. I'm not too sure if I've explained what Thursday Black Coffee episodes will really be about. So I'm gonna do this here before I jump into the episode where I talk about ghosting is cowardly. What the Black Coffee episodes are about is I can't remember exactly what scripture it is. These episodes will be more from the heart or more current than it will me doing study and finding a Bible verse, going over that Bible verse and trying to break it down, look at definitions and everything like that. But I know there's a scripture in the Bible where it says that the righteous must be a light to the just and the unjust alike. And you hear other scriptures in the Bible about how it rains on the just and unjust alike. Either way it goes, if there isn't a scripture that says that, I do believe that with me trying my best to be a decent man of God, that if I can give some insight to those who believe in God and to those who don't, then I am still doing God's will because I'm not here just for those who believe in God. That's a crass way of thinking, honestly, to feel like our only mission is to save the people who already believe, or have the people who believe, is have the people believe who already believe, or try to help the people out there that already believe or believe exactly what we believe. No, we're here to help everybody. And that's one thing that I feel like we as men and women of God, although albeit I'll say Christians, but some people consider Christians negative. So we as men and women, children of God, fall short at is that we keep everything so closed off and feel like it's a club that we're in and not something that we're supposed to share more so through our actions than our words with everybody else. So that's what Black Coffee is going to be about. Black Coffee is mainly going to be about certain issues that will help people become better people in general, even if it doesn't lead them to Jesus or even if they don't have the same faith that I have. To God be the glory. That being said, I'm 43 years old. I love telling people I grew up in the last days of It Takes a Village and the beginning of Mind Your Own Business era. What I mean by that is when I was growing up, my neighbors told on me and my brothers. My neighbors often whooped us. My babysitter was able to whoop us. We got poppings by rulers in school, and while I'm not too keen on kids getting whooped or popped in school, we got paddled in school when I was growing up too. And it really taught me a respect for everybody, not just my parents. It gave me a respect for every adult, period, not just the people in my family who were older than me. It taught me to respect people's environments. It taught me to respect people's space. It taught me to respect, well, I guess people's environments is the best way to leave it, so I'll leave it at that. That's what I mean when I say it takes a village. It meant that somebody would be able to come to my grandmother or my mother, or my grandmother or my mother would be able to go to someone and say, hey, this and this happened. And instead of immediately cursing them out, calling them wrong, they would investigate and see what really happened. Sometimes they were right, sometimes they weren't. But instead of automatically telling the other person to stay out your business and your child would never do anything like that, we knew we couldn't get away with anything. And even if we got away with it, even if we did try to get away with something, when it came to the surface or when it hit the fan, we had to own up to it. That's what we knew. We knew that somebody was always watching. So whatever we did that was considered wrong or disrespectful, we meant it. And when I say I grew up at the beginning of mind your own businesses, as I started hitting my teens and 20s, I started seeing more of, I tell you what, I tell you like this. I used to love babysitting kids before I had my own. I used to love babysitting kids. I loved kids, period. I play with them. I joke and jive with them. I do everything I can with them and everything like that. But let me tell you what made me stop babysitting kids and why I will not keep your kids or anybody else's. The reason why I don't even want to be around anyone else's kids. The reason why I don't even like being around other people's kids, especially by myself, especially even if I'm watching them for an hour or so, is because if I'm stricter on your child than you are and you don't like me being strict on your child, then I'm the problem. You will let I've had family members want me to watch their children, and just because their children get away with stuff with them, they expect me to let their children get away with stuff with me. And that's not how I operate. I've had family members tell me not to ever talk to their children in a certain way again, just because I told them to stop doing something that they should not have been doing. I've been out in public plenty of times to where I'll see, God forbid me saying this, I'm not trying to single anybody out, but where I see a lot of single mothers letting their children run around, do any and everything, and then as soon as somebody say, hey, your kid's doing this, would you mind telling them to stop? There's an attitude, there's a problem. You need to mind your business. Don't talk to my kids like that. I raise my kids how I want to. This is what I say, and this is what I mean when I say I grew up at the end of It Takes a Village and the beginning of Mind Your Business. Because somewhere down the line between me being 10 and me being 20, a shift happened to where people stopped caring about their children representing them a certain way in public. And it was only more so about no one ever talking to your children a certain way. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people who abuse certain authorities and everything like that. Again, when it comes to school, I completely understand defending your children, but your children are not always innocent when it comes to school with everything that they do. And some of these kids know that just because you're going to have their back and you're not going to do any investigating and you're going to yell, scream, and shout, that they're going to go out there and do absolutely any and everything they can because you're not going to discipline them at all. But the lack of respect for other people and how they run their households, how they like their space is what really kills me about today. The reason why I brought that up is because there was something else that was more relevant in my time growing up than it is now. And that is actually talking things out or letting people know you have a problem with them when you have a problem with them. Addressing a problem with somebody, adult to adult. I'm not going to say man to man. I'm not going to say woman to woman. Adult to adult, mature person to mature person. Human being to human being. Also, during my time, we used to really, if we had a problem with somebody, we confronted that person. Confront may seem like a bad term, but we confronted that person if we had a problem with them. Otherwise, there wasn't nothing to say. But for the most part, if we had a problem with somebody, we confronted them. We'll go to them, we'll talk to them, we'll let them know what went wrong, what happened, or blah, 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 this is this. And if anything else, there was one thing that happened a lot during my time as well. If you decided not to have anybody in your life anymore, you went to that person and let them know why. And that leads me to what I say now when I say ghosting is cowardly. I'm not calling anybody a coward, but I'm saying the act of ghosting someone who may have wronged you in some kind of way is a cowardly thing to do. There are a lot of things that could have happened. Now, I'll break it down like this. What if they didn't know they did something that offended you? And at any given point, what if this person was willing to work on it and change what they did that offended you? But since ghosting is so popular now, protecting your own peace is one way that they cover it up. That's what we do. We ghost somebody and call it protecting our own peace when truth be told, we just don't want to face that person. Some people you cannot compromise with. I completely, totally understand that. But there are a lot of people who you consider close to you, who I consider close to me, who we consider close to us. One minute we bond, and the next thing you know, they drop off the face of the earth. We drop off of the face of the earth. Ignore their phone calls, block them on this, block them on that. And we think that's okay. The reason why I say it's cowardly is because if you really had a problem with that person and you wanted to get down to the bottom of it, that's exactly what you would do. But getting down to the bottom of a problem that you have with somebody takes accountability, because it also means that, well, it takes accountability and it takes courage. A lot of people don't have enough courage to go to somebody and say, hey, you did this wrong to me. We think walking away is the best thing to do. Now, let me make something very clear. If you talk to somebody over and over and over again about the same thing, or you realize that this pattern will never change and then you decide to cut that person off, that's not ghosting. But what I'm talking about is you seeing somebody do something that you don't like, and then all of a sudden you have absolutely nothing else to say to them. That's what I consider ghosting, and that's what I consider cowardly. A lot of times, even though we don't want to admit it, and I have to admit this to myself too, the times where I have ghosted people, it's literally been because I didn't want to face telling them the problem that I had with them, because I didn't want to hear what they had to say. I didn't want to hear what they had to say and how it would make me feel. I didn't want to put myself in a position to where it may have triggered something. And I understand you can sit up here and say that and use that as an excuse to, and yes, I did say an excuse. You can use that as an excuse to say, well, you don't want it to lead into something more, or an argument or a fight or blah, blah, blah. This is this. I understand that completely, but if you have any type of self-control, even if the other person doesn't, 9 times out of 10, you can walk away from the situation without it getting physical. You know, I'm not saying it won't get verbal, but you can at least walk away from the situation without it getting really physical. But a lot of times we don't even give other people the chance to really tell you what it is that to really fix the issue. We just decide that the best thing to do is, again, protect our peace. And it's so popular nowadays. I can't tell you how many posts I've seen over the past decade to where they say you don't owe anybody any explanation. If you really feel like that, then cool. I'm glad you do. But speaking from somebody who's been on both sides of the spectrum, I'm going to tell you something that is biblical. What is biblical is the unspoken 11th commandment. Treat other people how you want to be treated. Do unto others as you should have them do unto you. And it's mentioned plenty of times in the Bible that whatever you do to other people is coming back to you. Even if you don't believe in Jesus, even if you don't believe in God, karma is all about what you put out in the world coming back to you. So even if what I said doesn't make sense when it comes to it being a cowardly move, and the other person at least showing the other person some respect and some decency to tell them the problem that you have with them, why you can't talk to them anymore, giving them the opportunity to change something that bothers you or concerns you, even if that's not valid enough for you, which I get. I'm going to hear a million excuses on why that's not valid enough, and that's cool. I understand that. But when we get biblical and when we think about karma, let's think about how many times you've been ghosted. If you've ever been ghosted, let's think about how somebody completely flipped the script on you, and then it took you years, months, days, however, months, days, weeks, sometimes years for you to find out what the problem really was. Then come to find out the problem wasn't that serious anyway. And it was something that you could have actually worked on and you would have been willing to work on. How many times have you had somebody just completely cut you off? And how did you feel when that person completely cut you off? I can sit up here and admit nothing about being cut off feels good, especially when you and this other person, even if only for a day, had some type of connection that was unique enough for you to feel like this person was worth talking to again. And this person decided that you weren't. Nothing about that feels good. Even if I didn't like what the other person may have said, or the other people who have cut me off, I would have at least have liked to have known, to see if maybe possibly it was something that I could have worked on. We could even look at this if you want to. Sorry, since this is called black coffee, I'm going to take a sip of some black coffee. That's good. Another way of looking at it, which is not as relative as I want it to be, but I'm going to mention it anyway. Another way of looking at it is going to a job interview. I've also been on several job interviews. To God be the glory. I love where I work now. And at least 4 times a week, I'm thanking God for it, if not more, because I want to stay exactly where I'm at, and I don't want to mess it up. And every day, I do not take for granted that I've been blessed with the opportunity to live a decent lifestyle. But even with that, I've been on several jobs I've been on several job interviews that I knew I was qualified for, overqualified for some of them. I get to the second or third interview. Then the next thing I know is I get an email saying they decided to go into a different direction with somebody who was more qualified for the job. Well, I met all the requirements. I answered all the questions correctly to the best that I knew how. I actually did research on this. I studied up on this to make sure I presented myself properly. What was it that I did wrong? If you haven't ever been on an interview and they chose somebody else when you know you presented your best self and put your best foot forward and you still think what you did wrong, you have lived a very blessed and privileged life. But the majority of us have been on interviews, and the interviews that we've been on, they tell us that they decided to go in a different direction, and all of us at one point have thought, what did I do wrong? What could I have changed? Interviewers will not tell you what you could have done to make you better the next time you go to an interview. I'm not certain why. Maybe it's because the next time you have an interview, it'll make it easier for you to walk through the doors. But there's no etiquette there that would have them tell you you did really good on this interview, but this answer we didn't like. You have to figure things out for yourself, and most of the time when you figure it out for yourself, even men being driven by emotion, you come up with a conclusion, solution, or reason that may not entirely be adequate. I didn't think that would work. To God be the glory. I'm glad that it did, but it actually does work, because in the long run, when we ghost people and when people have ghosted us, what we do is try to figure out what we did wrong, and we come up with reasons that are completely inadequate. We think it could be one thing and it could be something completely and totally different. Sometimes people ghost us because of what they're going through on their own, and we're beating ourselves up because we think it's something that we did. Then there's this other element. to where we don't take accountability and we will look at the situation and we can even know where we could have improved at, and we'll still convince ourselves, I'm not the problem, they the problem. And this can lead people down such a terrible road that lacks accountability, that lacks the ability and the opportunity to improve or change themselves. What if you actually going to that person and saying, hey, I can't deal with you because of this? Is that nail in the coffin that gets them to change? What if, for instance, what if men stopped hanging around men who were not in their children's lives and straight up told them, bro, if you ain't in your kid's life, you can't be around me. I can't hang around womanizers. I can't hang around people who cheat on their wives. I cannot deal with abusers. I can't do that. I know I can't. Even with family, I can't deal with abusers. I can't hang around people who treat their kids like they're burdens. That's not something that I can do. And I'll even sit up here and tell you, like, yo, I ain't finna come around a whole lot, and I'll tell you, like, the way you doing this be the reason why I ain't coming around. You know, it could be family, and I tell you, we cool and I love you, but we just ain't on the same road. You know, we ain't walking down the same path. But I have people that I won't talk to if they don't walk down the same path that I'm on. And it's cool if they don't, but I just know that I can't sit up here and be around things that I don't condone. But what if men stop hanging around men because they're not in their children's lives? What if women stop hanging around women because they see the woman taking advantage of a good man and using a child against that man, specifically because that man doesn't want to be with her? Poor examples, yes, and that's something that's like opening up Pandora's box. I understand that, but it is an example on me saying, what if you actually being the person to confront this person for an issue that you have with them instead of ghosting them is what exactly gets them to change? And even if they don't change, wouldn't you rather walk away knowing that you tried to get somebody to see the mistake that they keep making or the mistake that they have made? If nothing else, for the people who really only think about themselves, if nothing else, wouldn't you at least like for somebody to tell you what the problem is before they ghost you? I am going to circle back, as they would say. I am going to circle back and say, yes, I do believe that ghosting is cowardly. I'm not saying that sometimes you shouldn't cut people off. Trust me, my cutoff game on point. You know, my cutoff game is so on point that I would have the mother of my kids tell me I don't give people enough of a chance. And I can respect that. So it's not about dealing with people who shouldn't be in your life. But let's at least think about why we don't want to talk to someone anymore. Let's at least consider two questions. Is it that you don't want to talk to them because of them? Or is it that you don't want to talk to them because of you? Not the best example, I know. It didn't come out how I wanted it to. So I'll say it like this. Is the reason why you're ghosting them because let me quit trying to sound too smart and intelligent with how I say this. Just ask yourself one question and be honest with yourself. But truth be told, a lot of us don't know how to be honest with ourselves. Ask yourself one question before you ghost someone. I actually do have two questions. Ask yourself two questions before you ghost someone. One is, would you really want this person to ghost you? And two, are you ghosting them because you're afraid to confront them and have the difficult conversation with them, to have the uncomfortable conversation with them? Forgive me if I sound a bit biased, but I'm pretty sure that if you ask those two questions, 95% of the reasons why we ghost people is because we're afraid to have those difficult, uncomfortable conversations. And as much as I love the benefits of social media has made us punks. Social media has made us cowards. Social media has taught us to run from actual accountability, from actual responsibility, from actually being able to help and change and even improve on our own selves, because we get too much validation from people we barely know. We run online and seek validation instead of trying to build and get stronger with the people who are willing to be in our lives. So yes, I do believe that ghosting people is a cowardly move. No, I am not calling anyone a coward, but I'm saying the act of ghosting someone itself is cowardly, especially if you have not given this person. Okay, so I'm going to say this one last thing, then I'm going to wrap it up. If it's somebody you meet, you just have a conversation with, and y'all have a really, really bad conversation, the first time y'all talk is just off the wall, ridiculous, and it just leads into an argument, all different types of debates, and there's no type of compromise whatsoever in the conversation. Cool, I can understand you no longer talking to that person after the first time you talk to them. Technically, I don't consider that ghosting, but I see how people can consider that ghosting. But when I'm talking about these people who you may have actually built rapport with, even for one day, to where there was some type of connection there, even if you disagreed, there was a disagreement to a respectable level, and there was just some type of bond that was there. You saw this person as being someone that had some type of value in your life, especially if it lasted more than a day. But something about this person had value, gave you value. Something about this person seemed significant enough for you to talk to this person more than once. Yet, you drop off the face of this earth and don't give this person reason enough to even see if they would have been willing to make changes on why you were hurt or disappointed. I refuse to believe that the reason why you're doing that is for you to keep your own peace. I really, truly believe that the reason why we do this, and yes, I am saying I've done it too, I really, truly believe the reason why we've done this is because we were afraid of what would have happened if we actually went and confronted that person, or if we actually decided to have that difficult conversation. I know I haven't wanted to speak to family or other people because I knew it would lead to an argument, and yet and still there's always that question in the back of my mind, what if it didn't? I've had people who I wanted to say stuff to, and I did say stuff to, and I absolutely knew 100% this was going to be an argument. I even prepared myself for an argument, and we were actually able to talk it out like adults. But the one thing I'm absolutely certain of is I'd rather know that I at least tried than to wonder what would happen if I did, for one. And the second thing, as I wrap this up, is I know good and well that if I felt like we really had something, if it mattered in any type of way, I know I don't like being ghosted. And since I don't like being ghosted, I will no longer ghost anyone. If I have no reason to talk to you, if you are actually pulling me down more than building me up, then I guarantee you're going to know why. It's up to you on whether or not you accept it. It's up to you to consider me and think about me to see if I'm worth you making the adjustments and if I'm valued enough to stay in your life. But if I tell you the problem that I have with you, the ball's in your court, not mine. And I'd feel better myself knowing that I'm living like that because it's exactly how I would want to be treated. What you're going to hear me say a lot on this channel as we're getting ready to close this out. Let's get that outro music going. What you're going to hear me say a lot on this channel as we get ready to close this out is how important do unto others as you shall have them do unto you is. If we walked with that mentality, even for those who we consider to be sociopaths, to have no feeling, to have no emotion, if they really took the time to think logically about doing unto others as they would want done unto them, then the world would be a whole lot better place. Thank you for tuning in to Obedience, Faith, and Discernment. Remember my 5 favorite things: stay focused, stay faithful, stay true to yourself. Treat other people how you want to be treated. Give God all the respect and glory that God deserves, because God is doing a hell of a lot more in your life than you could ever imagine. I love you, and I know Jesus does too. Peace.